The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for the 6th of June, 2016 are currently trading with gold at $1,244.49 an ounce, silver $16.41 an ounce, Texas crude $48.62 a barrel, and Bitcoin is still rising at 586 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1536, the commencement of the Mexican Inquisition, an extension of the Spanish Inquisition into the New World from the Spanish conquest of Mexico. It lasted until 1820 with an unknown number of victims. The beginning of the Mexican Inquisition, today in history. In recent news, the IRS has finally released a nearly complete list of the organizations targeted 3 years ago, which numbers in the hundreds, 426 as of now. This is a far higher number than what the Treasury Department's Inspector General believed they were back in May of 2013, when he identified 298 of them. Of course, many of them were different Tea Party Patriot chapters, a group already known to have been affected. However, a lesser-known organization to receive greater scrutiny and lag time on tax-free status recognition was former Congressman Ron Paul's Campaign for Liberty, organizing kickstarted after his drop from his 2008 presidential bid. Along with a joint lawsuit with other groups, the Tea Party Patriots renewed their effort for IRS Commissioner John Koskinen's impeachment, while House Republicans back in May put pressure on the IRS, introducing measures to censure the IRS Commissioner and remove him from office without a pension. A study released today by NYU's Langone Medical Center ranked a singer or group's popularity with teenagers and the type of foods and drinks they endorsed, the first nutritional analysis to review dozens of advertisements by music stars over a 14-year period. It found that 79% of the promoted beverages were sugary drinks, high fructose sugary drinks, and 80% of the foods were nutrient deficient. And shockingly, there was no endorsements of fruits, vegetables, or whole grains, with only one food product, pistachios, receiving a healthy score. Also, the study noted that roughly $2 billion a year is spent by food and drink companies on youth-targeted ads. The Lone Star Lowdown is currently looking for sponsors. So if you have a product or a service you'd like to advertise with us, feel free to give me a call at 210-363-2257. This is Rick Rohde with your Lowdown for June 6, 2016.
Good friends, good evening and welcome here on this, it is the 14th of June, 2016. It is a kind of a warm Tuesday night here in New York City where I'm speaking to you. I wish I could be speaking with you, but that comes soon when the phone line's open. To you from Brooklyn, New York, that would be. My name is Tom Kiley. It is time here on the Logos Radio Network for INN World Report Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Good evening. Welcome to the program. We come to you not just here on Tuesday nights, but on Thursday nights as well from 6 until 8 p.m. So there you have it. Typically, I will have at least one guest lined up for you, but sometimes that's not always the case. Tonight's not going to be one of those kinds of programs. I'd like to open the phone lines and have a community discussion, an INN World Report listening audience discussion about this terrible loss of life and tragedy that unfolded the other night in Orlando, Florida, where something like 49 people were killed. There's a couple of them in the hospital that I understand are hanging on by a thread. Let's hope and pray that they survive. Shot by a lone gunman, we are told, and I don't have any reason to doubt that at this point. But it's an unfolding story. I've been monitoring it over the last couple of days, switching back and forth, reading on the internet, getting some email from people, but also on the television, switching back and forth. It's very interesting to see the right-wing the controlled right-left puppet show that we have to live through, seeing the right-wing take on it as presented by Fox News and the left-wing take on it as presented by MSNBC, and then sort of something down the middle a little more, but center-left, I would say, from the regular NBC and that sort of thing. So anyhow, let's talk about that. 512-646-1984 is the number to call in on. So tonight's a night to call in, please. Let me turn the phone lines on. There they go. They're on now. And for the balance of the show, we'll hopefully hear from you and talk about this. It is an evolving situation information-wise. Obviously, the incident has happened and it's all finished. But it's an evolving situation informationally, and also for the health of the people who were injured, some of whom I understand are in bad shape, still a couple, and could very well lose their lives yet. So that situation is still evolving. But the response to it, the information coming out of the incident and what we're being told is all an evolving story, and it's already evolved quite a bit. The early reports were, and what did this happen on late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, in a gay discotheque club in Orlando, Florida. Apparently, the shooter went in there, got past reports, and again, this could change because sometimes the information that comes out early on is incorrect. And it gets corrected. Sometimes it's correct and it gets incorrected. Okay. Sometimes after the FBI gets done, looking at witnesses, if they prefer to have the story described a certain way. And this was, for instance, what happened with TWA flight, 88 over Long Island. Okay. They tell people that they didn't see what they saw, but who knows about that? But at least what I've been able to gather so far, this man went to this club and went in. There was a uniformed off-duty police officer in the front doing security or checking IDs or something like that, I am told. Now, I wasn't clear in the beginning as to whether or not he was in uniform or not, but it was clear that there was an off-duty cop who was out front of the club. Later on in other reports, I saw that it said that the man, though off-duty, the officer was in uniform. So right there is one point of interest. Now, again, the story is evolving, and actually, the official version and the actual version may not be the same. But either case, our understanding of either one is still in an evolutionary process. So first thing I thought about was what was the security like? And we're told this guy had to get past an off-duty uniformed cop at the door. All right. And then he was in there at the bar drinking for some time, there's people who saw him there drinking. Then we're told he went back out to his car and he came back in, leaving one pistol, I believe, in the car and coming in with a pistol and an AR-15. Now, so the next question is, how do you get past the cop security guard at the door with an AR-15? I don't know. Those of you who are familiar with the weapon, maybe you can give us a call. Is it possible to have that broken down into a small package and somehow, typically when you're going into clubs, you're at least checked out for ID. And depending on the club, I've been to clubs, especially, after hours clubs, where you can actually be physically pat down before you go into the place, or have a wand that detects metal go over you. Now, I'm not sure what level of security they had at this place, but somehow he was able, apparently, to get this AR-15 in there. I've also heard, and this is a report that I heard early on, I have not heard this echoed much since, but I also heard that the various exits to the club were blocked or locked, so you couldn't get out. There's only one way to get in and out, and that was through the front door. So that's what I heard. Then I hear that, just about at the end of the night, near closing time, the guy started shooting people. And then he apparently held some people captive in one of the bathrooms, got on the phone, reportedly said that he was doing this for ISIS and that he had captives, gave out some disinformation, we are told, saying that he had strapped suicide bomb vests onto some of the hostages of his so that if they tried to break in and kill him, even more people could be hurt. And then there was a great lull in the action, it seems, until about 5-something in the morning when the SWAT team went in to try to subdue the guy and free the rest of the people and get medical help for the people who were in there who were hurt. This they did apparently by trying to blow a hole in the front of the place and drive some kind of tractor or payloader or something through it. They also had an armored vehicle. And it looks like that attempt was not successful immediately. They didn't get a big enough hole or something, and they had to try to ram this wall. Now, I don't know. If the guys in the bathroom hold up with people, one would think that you ought to be able to sneak into the place or at least somehow get some kind of surveillance going on into the inside. I don't know, send a robot in there or sneak in or something. But that doesn't sound right to me. If the guy's holed up there with hostages and he's in a part of the club where he may not be able to see the entrance, if you could determine that through phone calls, which apparently he was making, and I don't know, presumably he had a smartphone. I don't know if the geo-positioning abilities of the phone would be good enough to let them know exactly where he was inside the place. We have that capability to let the government know where you are via your smartphone. That's there. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that you're going to try to blow a hole and go in there. And then apparently a big gun battle ensued. I've seen comments on the internet that claim some of the casualties happened during this gun battle with this one lone guy and all the SWAT people that went in there. I don't know how true that is. But the shooting started up again at 5:15 or something, 16 in the morning. And that's it. And the poor people at the hospital, they got some injured people. And then it just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. Supposedly the largest mass shooting incident in the United States ever. I don't know. I've gotten people sent me information and said, no, we killed American Indians a lot more, but in one day and at one spot. But I guess they don't count the original Americans. And there you have it. Now, 512-646-1984 is the number. I'd like to get your take on this. I know that many of you are listening in Austin, Texas. Texas is clearly a state where the Second Amendment is held in higher regard than it is in certain other states. So that alone is an interesting take from you all because predictably, and this is why I'm watching the coverage from both sides of the phony baloney right-left paradigm, but from the left side of that paradigm, they're trying to blame this all on guns, okay, which is preposterous because if the guy was a real terrorist, he would have no problem getting guns and explosives. That's why they call them terrorists, okay? Criminals, terrorists, they don't have a problem getting things. They don't mind breaking the law to acquire things, all right? And we've made so many guns in this country, so many millions and millions and millions of guns, and they're floating all over the world. And obviously it's not any difficult feat to smuggle stuff, people, truckloads, drugs, anything into this country fast and furious. Okay, so if you really are an organized terrorist, and ISIS is supposed to be a pretty organized organization with millions of dollars in revenue every month from, the oil that they steal, and God knows how much money they get from our supposed allies, the Saudis and the Turks. Okay, real terrorists don't have a problem getting this kind of weaponry. This guy worked for a big security firm, government contract security firm, and he was apparently able to just buy his weapons no problem. And some reports, again, this is an evolving situation, but I've seen some reports indicate that, in fact, his position as a security person helped him buy weapons. I don't know how true that is, but I think he had a pistol, a couple of pistols he bought. He had to do the 3-day wait on that. And but the AR-15, I'm told that he could buy right away. So anyway, we're coming up to the break. I see Julian's on the line, so we'll go to Julian first, 512-646-1984. And this evolving situation. And then predictably on the right, it's all about anti-Islamic sentiment. Okay, so you've got the predictable positions, yet nobody's talking about the truth, which exists in the middle. And that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. 512-646-1984. Give us a call.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
right, good friends, welcome back. Tom Kiley, INN World Report Radio. We're talking tonight. You're going to be the guest, by the way, on the show. I'm hoping that you're going to call in, and Julian's called in already, but you could be next. 512-646-1984. I would like to talk amongst ourselves about this tragedy in Orlando, Florida. I think that you can discern an awful lot about where they want this country to go by watching and listening to the coverage of this thing, which is pretty lousy, if you ask me, but we can talk about that. 512-646-1984. The first person to call tonight is Julian. Hopefully you will be next if you give us a ring. There's nobody after Julian, so you could get right through. So now let's go to Julian. Good evening, Julian. Thank you for calling in. How you doing?
Good, Tom.
Well, what do you think about this tragedy in Orlando?
All right, so, I read Tarpley's morning briefing thing, and then I've been listening to, LaRouche's people. You ought to get Jeff Steinberg back on there because he'll talk about the British, Saudi link. Because, okay, here's this guy, this is person that they said did it, and he worked for this G4S who was once Wackenhut.
Right, big security firm.
Okay, he works for this security firm, and they're supposed to be out of the United Kingdom. They're headquartered in the United Kingdom, no less, according to what I was reading on Tarpley's deal. And then, so here's this guy who is on that in that arena and stuff, and they're showing these selfies of him with New York PD shirts on. Okay, so he's way more in the apparatus of the police state stuff, way more than even maybe Islamic radical stuff things, and so they could have used him as a patsy easily for that. The whole idea that let's say so they always wants to make us believe it's a one-person deal, and then that he could do all that by himself. And so it's a cover story already don't even make sense.
Well, I tell you, there's a few things that come to mind. And, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is this yet another example of state-sponsored terrorism, which is an absolute fact that our government conducts not only, or has conducted anyway, not only on target populations in other parts of the world, but on target populations within NATO, okay, in the European countries. There's no question that that's happened. And, of course, this is part of the phony baloney right-left paradigm. The news media never mentions this. The official news media never questions it, never mentions it. Oh, yeah, by the way, this is not one of the ones that our government did on us, okay? They just don't do it, okay, which is right off the bat. But in this case, as the story evolves, have you heard? It looks like this guy was gay himself.
Oh, yeah, that's another point, right.
That he's been going to this club for like 3 years. And some of his coworkers said that, he actually approached them for a date, quote unquote.
Yep.
So that doesn't sound like some jihadi guy who is all fired up about America and about hating gays and then just showing up in a club because of that. He was known in the club. They'd seen him in there many times. And some of the people interviewed said, yes, I've seen him in here trying to pick guys up over the years. So what's that all about? So this could be a self-hating gay guy, okay, who's conflicted.
Yeah.
And, maybe because, how if he's that's what he really is. How can ISIS say that, yeah, he's one of our guys, we support him, when ISIS would want to kill him too,
Yeah, good point.
I mean, it's a little bit crazy, isn't it? Now, what else? Maybe he's just a nut, and he just went off. And especially under this pressure, he was married and he's trying to be something he's not, and he's conflicted with himself, possibly. He could also be an MK Ultra type project as well. And they look for people who are conflicted, and to take advantage of that. So he's like that. I don't see yet any evidence of there being external shooters or other teams, as we've seen in some of the other things. But these are the possibilities that run through my mind. Very quickly, the story broke down. And the news media is pulling us on the right anyway, pulling us to get us to think this is Islamic jihadist terror. They're all over the place. They're under every bed. And here they are. And then as the story evolves, they got egg on their face because, well, it looks like he was gay. Some jihadi, huh?
Yeah. But the angle, that point's a big deal. And then that he was part of these security, network or, some security firm that they could easily, had access to what he was about and use him as a patsy for this or something, you know?
No question. And the question becomes, what kind of security firm are you if you've got people like this working for you and you don't know it? I mean, there's there's reports of coworkers who quit because this guy was over the top, stupid, angry.
So, so supposedly he was checked out by the FBI a few times and they find nothing. And then, well, if that's the case, then, okay, they failed again.
Either that or this is something that you can't really do anything about. And they're trying to make it sound like you can. The right's trying to blame Islam for this. And if you ask me, you know, if you look at the difference between the way this story is being handled on the right and the left, the left's making it all about, don't talk about Islam, only talk about guns. Yeah. And the right is talking about, don't talk about guns, only talk about Islam. Isn't that crazy? They're just almost mirror opposites of each other. And it's convenient, it seems to me, to tie everything that they can back to Islam, because that, by the way, is also a Zionist agenda to vilify everything Islam so as to justify Israel's actions and say, look how crazy these people are. Look how bad they are. Can Israel be blamed for killing thousands of people in Gaza with white phosphorus and stuff? They're animals. That happens to fit in with that narrative, which I think is one of the main reasons why at least the right-wing media pushes that.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing that you never hear either the right-wing media or the left-wing phony baloney media say, which is, okay, let's just take all of this at face value. And I'm not saying that it happens at face value, but this is triple canopy. This is multi-layer stuff going on here, okay? But even if you take it at face value, there's these angry Islamists in the Middle East who want to strike at the heart of Western countries and hurt and kill people because they're just crazy and they hate our freedom? Wait a minute. We're doing yet another crusade in the heart of their countries again. Right? A thousand years later, we're back there again on another Christian crusade in Islamic countries. And you tell me, what's the difference between killing 50 people in a disco if you walk in and shoot them up versus using a Hellfire missile from a drone to kill 25 people at an Islamic wedding in Pakistan, which we're not even at war with, because there's one guy in there that you want to kill? What, we're better? We've got a reason to do that? When we do it, it's okay. The news media doesn't even mention this. And if you take this story at face value, you could say, well, hell, how many Americans would go to, Islamic countries and kill people if they were over here doing that kind of thing to us? Just asking. Yeah. Just a question. But neither the right nor the left is allowed to talk about, no, what we do as I say, not as I do. Hold on, we'll be right back.
Remember Madonna's hit song, Express Yourself? Well, the Material Girls anthem turns out to be very good advice for couples. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back to tell you why in just a moment.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Comedian Phyllis Diller might have been onto something when she joked, "Never go to bed mad, stay up and fight." Researchers at the University of Michigan studied marital conflict in 197 couples over 17 years. Couples where both partners suppressed their anger over unfair attacks were twice as likely to die earlier than couples where at least one partner expressed their anger. Professor Ernest Harburg, the lead author of the study, says couples should identify healthy ways to handle their conflicts and work them through to resolution. He warns that couples who bury their anger, brood on it, and resent their partners are setting themselves up for trouble and shorter lives. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at LogosRadioNetwork.com.
friends, welcome back. Tom Kiley, INN World Report Radio. Unfortunate accident of history yet again. Just a terrible, terrible situation. A lot of background noise that helps to create this kind of a situation, what we had happen in Orlando, Florida. And we're going to talk about it tonight. There's no other guests. We're hoping that you're going to call in. We've got Julian on the line right now. John is on the line after Julian, and then you could be next, 512-646-1984. We got a lot of show, an hour and a half left tonight. So formulate your thoughts, chip in, give us a call. Am I off base? Do you have more information to contribute, a point of view? We'd love to have it all. It's your show. We're having a board meeting tonight. So let's somebody order the sandwiches. Okay, all right, let's go back to Julian. Hello, Julian. Are you still there? Oh, 1 second. Let me do this again. There you go. Okay, Julian, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'll wrap it up. Yeah, here you got someone else on the line. It just, then the other point, if he's like a gay guy actually and got, turned down or something by some others, and then he gets mad about that, who knows? But okay, supposedly he starts in there and goes making 911 calls and saying he's from the Islamic State or doing it for that. It just, none of it. I don't believe the official story no matter what. Just not going to believe the official story. We've been lied to too many times, as you well know, from, Kennedy on, before that even, to trust anything of what they're saying.
Sure, and listen, there's multiple types of incidences that they use. Some of them are just targets of opportunity. Sometimes it's not something that they planned, but it really was a crazy person or a copycat or something like that. But immediately they pounce on it. They try to take control of the story and twist it in their direction. And I see this happening with this story. For instance, he was supposedly married to a young woman for about 4 months. Now, that's really conflicted. If he was gay and he was married, he's having a hard time. He's fighting within himself, probably. He's got his own internal jihad going on, right? And now... And we see the wife on the TV. She went back to their apartment. She took some of her personal effects out of there. Now, in the last few hours, the news is reporting that the wife is cooperating with the authorities. All right. First of all, she shouldn't be saying anything to anybody, because if they feel it's useful for their global strategy to paint this wife as a jihadi who was helping them, they'll do it. And she'll be toast, whether she was that or not. Okay, if she look what they did to the Tsarnaev brothers in Boston, for instance, Yep. So if it's useful to turn her into a piece of this story, whether she really was or wasn't, that's what'll happen. So you don't talk, all right? But anyway, she apparently talked to them, and she told authorities. They're reporting now. The story starts. She said, well, she knew this guy was crazy and he wanted to hurt people, and she knew about it, and she tried to talk him out of it. That's how it started. Then the story evolves, and she actually drove with him to the club one time. Then she actually drove with him when he went to buy the gun. Well, first of all, buying the gun was absolutely perfectly legal. Okay. Now, and then it turned into she's an accomplice. She should be arrested. She's helping him. Maybe they were driving down the street when the guy said, wait a minute, I want to stop in at this place. Hold here. Wait a second. They don't tell you that part. All right. But the story is taking over the story, turning her into another Islamic terrorist. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. I don't get that. But why would they be letting her walk free if that was the case? The news shows her going to her apartment to get some of her personal effects out of it. But what I'm trying to, there's mission creep, and I'm with you. I don't believe the official story at all. Even if it's a target of opportunity story where this was not a false flag, but how can we make it into one after? How can we make lemonade out of lemons?
Yeah. All right, man, I'm going to listen.
All right, Julian, thank you for listening. Thanks for being there. And as far as Jeffrey Steinberg goes, I've tried to get him back on, and he's not returning my calls. I thought he had a good time on the show. I thought he was very interesting. But I don't know. I'll try again. You're right. We had a great show with him talking about the Frankfurt School.
Yep. All right, man. See ya.
Thanks for being there, Julian. Okay, now John in Texas, also known as Scottish John here in the trade, is next. And you can be next after John because we've got nobody else, 512-646-1984. Scottish John, how you doing, brother?
All right, Tom. How you doing, mate?
Very, very good. I got my wife Faith riding shotgun tonight. She's next to me with the headphones on, but she says she won't come on and say hello. So I just want to let you know she's.
Well, tell her I said hello, and it's nice to know you're keeping the faith.
You got to have faith. That's what I always say.
Yeah, you got to faith up to it from time to time, man.
There you go. All right, so then
stop there.
now that we've gotten done practicing our comedy routine, which I hope we don't try to do professionally because we'll starve. And by the way, it's not a night to be funny, I suppose. But
I know.
Yeah. So, John, what have you to say about this horrible tragedy in Orlando, Florida?
Well, my first taster of it was, I guess, sometime on Sunday afternoon. I watched a video of a mother whose son. She didn't know if he had been killed but he was missing. And she was being interviewed by CNN, I guess, and she was given this horrible act at being, she was crying, but there was no tears, and she was trying to be really distressed and emotional. Now, she said that she had tried calling him on his cell phone and wasn't getting any answer, and she'd been looking on Facebook for any mention of him, which I thought, to say the least, Tom, was a bit strange. Now, had that been you or me, I think, for starters, if a television crew came and approached me for an interview, I would tell them in no uncertain terms, the hook. I've never understood this, why people, in the wake of a supposed tragedy, will stand in the street and be interviewed by a damn television reporter. That's always drove me.
Well, I think it's because you've got more control over your own bearing and presence. There's a lot of stupid people out there too. And, this is their 5 minutes of fame, and they think they got to talk, and and sometimes maybe you've got a legitimate beef, you're upset, you're angry, and you want to say something to the world, and this is an opportunity. I don't know. I can't speak for these people, but
no, I'd be down at the hospital looking for my child.
Yeah. Well, and then again, look, I don't know that club, but I know a little bit about the gay club scene. Okay, I used to be a disc jockey and a club DJ for years, and I also had my own company where I actually leased the sound systems to the nightclubs and so forth, and I would manage the DJs and so forth. And one of my best clients was a big after-hours gay club in Asbury Park, New Jersey, in a downtrodden part of town. And it was a great scene. I mean, there was a lot of people dancing, having a great time. After all the other clubs closed, people would go there. They did not serve alcohol. And I got to know that scene. I got to know the proprietor and the DJ there and so forth. And it was a really kind of a mixed bag. There were people who didn't have parents. There were strays, if you will. There were all kinds of people who would go there. So, or from broken homes and stuff as well. Not a sort of a white toast, white bread kind of a community necessarily. So it doesn't surprise me that there's some, estranged parents or, some people who don't even know that their kin was in there. Or that some people are runaways, that sort of thing. Does that make any sense?
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, I just don't get past the not going to the hospital looking for your child. But I saw another couple, and these were guys who, I can't remember if they were in there, but they had friends that were in there. And again, they gave a very, very poor performance of being upset and sad.
Well, I know what you mean. Hold on, John. Yeah, they had the obligatory spokesperson guy who was there, and this guy's the guy wearing the hat, and he's been back and forth and all, and he had a lot of canned things to say, it seemed to me. We'll be right back. 512-646-1.
Easy.
All right, good friends, welcome back. Tom Kiley here, INN World Report Radio, every Tuesday and Thursday night. And, we're talking tonight about this tragedy in Orlando. It's a big deal. A lot of people killed, a lot of loss of life, a lot of people injured. And the politics around it are swarming already. And the propaganda around it, I think, is even the biggest factor now. Everyone trying to jump in there and use it for their personal agenda or their group's agenda. Okay, the left is using it as an agenda against selling weapons, and the right is using it as an agenda against Islam. So, and the truth is in between there someplace. But anyway, we're speaking with John. Let's go live back to John here, who is back now on the air. And you can be next, 512-646-1984. No guests tonight. We're hoping you're going to call in. So, John, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
So then, what was your first reaction when you heard about this? May I ask?
Martial law.
Okay.
And, the Constitution being what's the word? And then Obama stays in office.
I don't think we're at that point. No.
Well, you asked me. So
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. I see where you're coming from, I didn't ask myself, but I just chimed in. I got you. So that was your first reaction that this could be the event that is stacked on top of all the other preparatory events or preparatory or whatever it is to get us to this point where people are going to go along with more. I don't think so, because everyone wants to get rid of Obama. or a lot of people want to get rid of them. So you have to have a huge amount of the population to go along with that if you're going to pull that one. And I think that Trump's going to win, and that proves that Obama's legacy. People are so tired of it; they don't want to continue it with Hillary Clinton making it a third term of Obama. What do you think of
that? Well, before we go there, let me just fire off these other couple of points about this incident in Orlando.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you heard as well several times over the weekend the reports of people trying to get out this door and someone was holding it closed. It wasn't locked, but they could tell it was actually another person on the other side of this door because they were able to partially move it. Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about that, but I heard that all of the other doors were blocked but the front door.
Right.
And I haven't heard a lot about that again. But early on, that's what I heard. And that right away, there's been enough. John, you've been in the nightclub business for many years. I've been in the nightclub business for many years. There's been a number of tragedies, bands that had pyrotechnics on the stage that caused a fire and the doors were locked and it was a terrible loss of life. We're hearing this yet again. You got a club and the exits are blocked and they're locked and you can't get out again. I find that hard to believe. Very convenient for somebody who wants to kill everybody in the place.
Well, this particular instance, I believe Joe Biggs on InfoWars got to the bottom of this morning because he actually spoke to the person. And this guy had exited that door and realized there was a bunch of people who had exited that door before him, and they'd found themselves in a fenced-in yard and had stayed there because they were too frightened to go into the building, to go back into the building. And this guy had the presence of mind to keep the door shut so that no more people would come out into this yard. And what they eventually did was they were able to make a hole in the wire fence of this yard and then escape. That was Joe Biggs reporting this on InfoWars today.
So the notion that at least one of the exits was blocked was true. And why they wouldn't want people to come out, I guess, would be because they couldn't go anywhere themselves. And if the shooter saw everybody going out that door, maybe he'd follow them out and kill them all, I guess, huh?
Yeah, because they were trapped. Like, it would be like what do you call that? Shooting something in a barrel?
Fish in a barrel.
Fish in a barrel. There you go.
Yeah.
And the other one I wanted to bring up, Tom, was I watched a couple of videos today from different sources, but there's people carrying bodies down the street, and they're coming from the direction of the hospital, and they're walking back towards the club.
Yep.
And there are police cars being seen. There are no ambulances being seen. And at the hospital, the doors in the hospital where the ambulances normally pull up, that was all taped off.
Yep.
People were being told to go around the front door. So
that's actually a very good point. Scott Creighton from American Everyman, and I recommend you all go there. He's got a lot of posts on this already. WillieLoman.wordpress.com. That's one of the first things he did. He showed pictures of these characters. And I say characters because there's one spokesman guy with the hat. You'll see him. He's got the little straw hat on, and he had an American flag shirt on. And you see them heading back toward the club, getting closer and closer. Now, what's that all about? And the cops are letting them go back to the club. And I've seen the doctors on television today say, yes, we heard there was shootings. We heard people were coming in that were shot. At first, a few of them came in. Then a few more came in. Then a few more came in. Then a whole bunch of them started coming in, and we got overwhelmed. And the doctors went on to say, there's the guy. I'm watching it on TV right now, the big guy with the straw hat and the American flag shirt, okay? The doctors said, and I quote, a paraphrase, normally when we have a shooting, they are coming in with an ambulance. They are helping them already in the ambulance. And then they radio us to let us know from the ambulance what to expect. And that wasn't happening here. They were coming in. People were just bringing them in. So that's a great point. Where were the ambulances? Right? I mean, in a situation like that, you get the ambulances from all the area, not just one hospital.
Exactly, yeah.
Everybody pitches in. Even doctors. Why didn't they have doctors from another hospital come over to help them? They were inundated. They had to start doing triage. There were people in the hall. This is all hands on deck. Why didn't the cops? This took hours. Okay? He starts shooting at 2:10 or so in the morning. Then it all stops for hours. He's on the phone. People are showing Instagram from inside the club, everything. And then the cops try to break in at after 5 o'clock in the morning, and then there's more shooting, more killing. And they had hours to prepare for this. Why didn't they have a whole fleet of ambulances there from every hospital in the area? Orlando's a pretty big place, right? Why didn't I have a holy doctor? What's that all about? And John, the doctors say, yes, fortunately we practice for this, for drills and stuff. They made it sound like they do a mass casualty drill once a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It smells funny. I just thought something. Yeah, there was one other thing I thought of there, and I know it's easy to say after the fact, and you're not there, but if you're in a situation like that, maybe 2 or 3 people would have the presence of mind, like say the passengers on 9.
Right.
Did none of them have the cojones to tackle the hijacker?
If I'm going to get killed anyway, might as well go down swinging, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And I know we weren't there, and we didn't have to make that decision, but
that's true.
That was just something that crossed my mind.
A horrible. You know what crossed my mind? It's a big place. Okay, it's a big. I mean, clubs are big. You know, they're labyrinthian. You know, it's at night. It's dark. The bathrooms are in the back. Everybody was hiding in the back. He had hostages in the back. How many people were coming out the front then? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. And the same thing. If he's got people trapped in the back, why can't the cops start sneaking in through the front and hiding among the bodies or whatever? I don't know. You say it's hard to second guess.
Well, I've just got one more point, Tom, and then I need to go and feed my kitties.
Okay.
Otherwise, they'll be sending you.
And I'm taking that literally, John. Go ahead. I know a guy like you. You know, you're a very popular guy. Go ahead.
I posted on my Facebook page today. Whilst I'm not trying to demean the horror of this thing here, I would like to see the same outrage at the death of children in Syria and Palestine. And as we see for this, I mean, there's worldwide outrage about this. And whilst it is a very tragic event, hell, it's no more tragic than the daily lives of these poor people in Gaza and Syria.
Well, the point you raise is absolutely devoid from any television coverage. John, if people came to Austin, if people from another religion, from another part of the world came to Austin and killed with impunity, used white phosphorus and killed 3,000 Austin people, and then they went home again, and there's no outrage, the world doesn't try to hold them to account, how many people in Austin might get really angry and say, oh, guess what? I can travel to that country. They're not going to block me. I can travel to that country. I'm going to go and give them a little payback. I bet there's a few people who would say that.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, you know, we go blow up a wedding in Pakistan, a country we're not even at war at, with a Hellfire missile from a drone. Cowardly. And God knows how many innocent people get killed because we heard one bad guy was in there. And then we do the double tap strike. We hover the drone. You know, it's so high up that people can't even see it or hear it. And we hover, and they're watching on the television, and they wait about 20 minutes. That's how long it takes before the ambulances come and people go in there to start taking the bodies out. And then they shoot another one in there. The double tap strike. But that's just fine and dandy. We can do that. And they're not supposed to get mad and come back here and do something against us. And that's if you go with the official story. Anyway, thanks, John, for calling. We've got Randall on the line next. Randall will be next, and you can be next after Randall. 512-646-1984. Tom Kiley, INN World Report Radio, hour number 2 starting right after this message. And you're going to call, I hope. It's your night. Call us up, 512-646-1984. Welcome back, Tom Kiley, INN World Report Radio, hour number 2 starting here, and it is your show tonight. I do not have a guest, although I've got some great ones lined up coming up pretty soon. Tonight, I just thought we would talk amongst ourselves, and thank you very much. The great INN World Report listening audience is rising to the occasion. We've got We've got two great callers already. We got a third one on the line. Randall in Texas is on the line, and you can be next, 512-646-1984. We've got just about a full hour left in the show. So I hope you call in. We're talking together as a community, as the INN World Report listening audience about the events in the tragic, terrible, horrible events in Orlando, Florida. Now let's go to Randall. Hi, Randall. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for calling in. What's your take on the events in Orlando, if I may ask?
Well, the thing that the media doesn't cover, and you covered it in the first 10 minutes, and it's the key thing is how did the gun get in there?
Well, I don't know a lot about an AR-15. It looks a little bit like an M16, which I used to know how to break down, but that thing was a pretty clunky weapon, and it had a hinge on it. It wasn't one of these things where you take it apart and put it in a small little box or anything.
Right, yeah. I mean, he couldn't put it under his arm. He couldn't put it between his legs. I mean, if they had a security guard, and then they also had somebody collecting money. So it was kind of two levels of security. And but, you know, he may have planted the gun beforehand, that he was working during the day. You know how it is in the club. At night, there's security, but during the day, if you go there, well, there's nothing.
Yeah, and I thought of that too. At first, all they said was, you know, there was a uniformed off-duty cop working security at the front door. And then I heard the guy was in there for an hour or two having drinks at the bar. So then I thought, wait a minute, you know, how's this guy get an AR-15 in there? And then how does he keep it for an hour at the bar, right? Then the reports, and I said this earlier in the show, this is a volatile situation. The information is fluid. Then they made it sound like he went back out to his car when it was time to do the shooting, and he came back in with the stuff. But even still, how do you get past security like that?
Right. That's my key question. I mean, there's a lot of questions that can be asked, but it smells like a false flag. You know, either Manchurian Candidate. They wanted to get the gays riled up because they've got political clout, and they wanted to give some of that clout to Hillary, and they want to take our guns.
Well, Kevin Barrett, who's been a guest on this show, a very interesting, controversial professor from Wisconsin, he writes at Veterans Today. If you go over there and you take a look at his take, he said, how convenient. Islam just had a great week with the death of the great peaceful Muhammad Ali, you know, convert to Islam. And you even had people like the president of Turkey, Erdogan, coming over here to make a speech at his funeral, okay, from an Islamic country. So you had good PR going for Islam, and this certainly wipes that off the face of the earth very, very quickly. And as you say,
they never did mention that Muhammad Ali defied the government with his "I will not go to Vietnam and fight a war."
I heard some reports about that, but, you know, that was a very principled position on several levels. If he truly didn't believe in that war, and if he especially didn't believe in it as an American minority being used to, you know, hurt other people in other countries. But also, as I recall, one of his big justifications for that was he was an emerging African-American leader, and he did not want to put himself in a situation where he could very conveniently be killed. You know, so, and thank God he wasn't, if you ask me. So, and eventually his case went to the Supreme Court, and they backed him up that he was in fact a conscientious objector. He lost 5 years of his prime fighting years because of that. You know, so, but anyway, there's quite an agenda now. I don't know about you, Randall, but I'm watching, like I said, I'm monitoring the right and the left wings of the phony baloney right-left paradigm media. And it is really amazing to me to now watch the right-wing media in the form of Fox talking about this gay nightclub and talking about how tolerant we are of gay people and how intolerant Islam is of them. And I said, only just a few years ago, they were using, not even, maybe months ago, they were using the whole gay issue and gay marriage issue as a wedge issue to divide Americans. Here they are championing it. Do you find that to be interesting?
Oh, yeah. It's what they don't say that's the big indicator. And but you know, we're to the point where we don't believe anything that the major media tells us.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The crime of omission, and right-wing media or left-wing media, the 800-pound gorilla in the room that, as you say, they don't mention, which tells the whole story, is, wait a minute, even if you believe the official story, we've stuck a stick in a hornet's nest over in the Middle East. We are foreigners of another religion. We're coming in there. We're killing millions of people. At best, by mistake. Oops, we thought you had weapons of mass destruction. Even if Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, which he didn't have, he was absolutely no threat to the United States whatsoever. Syria is no threat to the United States. Libya was no threat to the United States whatsoever. And we can just go there. We're not even at war with Pakistan, and we have drones flying over Pakistan, and we're assassinating people. And if there's a whole wedding party around that person we want to kill, then so be it. They all get wiped out as well. And we're not even at war with them. This isn't even mentioned on the news. And even if, at face value, the official story, Randall, I asked the question before. If people from Iran came to the United States, an army from Iran came to the United States and killed dozens, hundreds, thousands of people in Austin, Texas with impunity, and then went back home again, and then said, hey, by the way, if anybody from Austin would like to visit Iran, you're welcome. We won't even check you. Come right in. Would there maybe be a few people in Austin who lost loved ones who might want to go to Iran and do a little payback? What do you think? I think we have to go live again with Randall. Hold on.
I mean, we haven't had a good president since JFK. And
look what they did to him.
To get out of Vietnam, and he, of course, he had about 10 different groups, any one of them that would whack him. And I'm not sure that some of them didn't get together and do it. But, you know, it was a coup. And right now we've got the current one, the last one, the one before that. There's been a war somewhere. And why not have a war on war?
Or as Dennis Kucinich used to say, you know, we have a Defense Department. And by the way, you know, the Defense Department used to be called the War Department until after World War II. And then they changed the name of it to the Defense Department for propaganda purposes. But why can't we have a peace department? Why can't we have a cabinet-level department that's dedicated toward solving conflicts peacefully?
Well, of course, that's the job of the United Nations.
Yeah, the United Nations, which, you know that expression, Randall, maybe you've heard me say this on the show, to the victor go the spoils, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you never hear that expression when it comes to the United States, do you? No, we don't get spoils. We're the good guys. We don't go to war to get spoils. And even if we went to war, we don't take spoils even if we could. That's baloney. That's baloney. The 5 allied major powers who won World War II have a permanent seat in the Security Council. Russia, France, England, the United States, and China. And any one of those 5 countries can veto the will of the entire rest of the planet. If that's not to the victors go the spoils, I don't know what is.
Well, Tom, you can't confuse us with the facts. You have to believe the BS. Yeah, I hope you don't hear that siren.
I hear it a little bit. Yeah, they're coming after you because I hear you on the show there, Randall. But I mean, look, the United Nations sanctioning death and destruction since 1948. It is just a rich man's trick. It's got nothing to do with democracy. It's got nothing to do with giving voice to the majority of the people in the world. It's got everything to do with a tight group of oligarchs tightening their control over the rest of the world. And peace, forget about it. Forget about it. So, what do you think, Randall, about this guy? I mean, he's in this club for hours acting with impunity, and they're all carrying on that he had an AR-15. So what? If you're in a club where there's nobody armed and there's only one way to get out and you're blocking that entrance and you only have a pistol, if you've got 10, 20, 30 clips of ammunition, you've got hundreds of rounds anyway. What difference does it make whether it's an assault rifle or a pistol under those circumstances?
Right. Now, there are some people, and there needs to be some analysis made of the timing of the shots. Some people say that there was 2 different shooters or multiple shooters, and they could very easily. Now, he was only shooting one gun at a time. And so if there's 2 shots within a tenth of a second of each other, he couldn't pull the trigger that fast. I mean, the FBI should know this. but the FBI is being heard is ridden on by the Justice Department.
The FBI is a political animal. With TWA flight, what was it, 87 or 88 over Long Island? The FBI went and pounded everybody to change their story who said they saw missiles coming up from the ocean. So they're a political animal. They know what they have to do. Hold on, Randall, because we're going to take a break. We're speaking with Randall from Texas. You can be next, 512-646-1984. That music means we got to take a break, and I don't want Randall to get cut off in mid-sentence, so I've asked him to hold on, and hopefully he'll still be here when we get back. Otherwise, we'll take your call, too. 512-646-1984.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
All right, good friends, welcome back. Tom Kiley, INN World Report Radio. Randall's on the line. We're going to go back to Randall in just a moment. But you can be next, 512-646-1984. And phone line's open for the rest of the show, which is, a good 45 minutes almost. I hope to hear from you. We're talking about what happened in Orlando, Florida. So let's go back live with Randall. Okay, Randall. So totally phony baloney arguments being raised about this thing. Guns have nothing to do with it. In the sense that, Randall, I know, I think you're sort of like my age. You've been around long enough. You've got a perspective that some people don't have. Something changed in this country, right? From when Christopher Columbus first set foot here, and he had guns, right? Until today, or 20 years ago, kids didn't bring guns to school to kill other kids. People didn't bring guns to their workplace to kill other workers. All right, you had the occasional stuff. I remember that the shooter in Texas, there in Austin, I think, right, was up on the campus in the '60s. But otherwise, now it's happening with such ferocity and frequency. It's almost every week now, and they're talking about guns. But the real question is, what changed? Why did something that never happened now becomes a common occurrence? None of these jackasses in the media, right or left, will talk about that. And I suspect, and I'd like to get your take on this, because the answer is not a pretty one. Okay, the answer is either there is something so fundamentally disgusting with our system that tells children that they've got a future where they're going to be saddled with $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 worth of debt from college before they even start into the workplace. If they can find a job to pay that back, they're going to be debt slaves from day one, and everything else, all this other crazy transgender, everything else. Okay, it's either that on the one end, or on the other end, it could be, like Gladio, state-sponsored terrorism to guide the public in a direction that the elites want them to go into. I don't see any other answer to that question, and it's not a question being asked. Guns have been here forever. Why all of a sudden now? They will never ask that question. What do you think about that?
Well, I tell you why. Now they want to get the guns. That's the reason, and there's an agenda, because this is the last Sebastian of liberty in the world. And France and Europe and all of the European countries, they pretty well lost theirs, and they didn't have guns. And here in the United States of America, we have kept our guns. And, people like Hillary, of course, have the agenda to take the guns. And it's not only her. I mean, Obama's the same. And all of his cabinet, all of the people, and they convince through propaganda that, it's the guns. Well, the gun never did anything.
Well, actually, my view of Hillary Clinton is even much more craven than the one that you just depicted. I don't think she has a position. I think she takes her marching orders from the big boys who put the politicians in the position to be the president in the first place. And if that's what they want, then she will do whatever they say. If they want everybody to have guns because there's still a few American Indians running around loose, then she'd be saying the opposite. When the oligarchs want Americans to be armed, they're armed, and they do what they want. They clear the country of undesirables, whatever. Now it's the other way around. So let me ask you, what does that tell you if there's such a push to disarm the American public? It tells me something. I'd be curious to see what you think of that.
Well, the big push to disarm the American public is to enslave us. And in addition to that, they've lied to us about or deceived us with the food, with the medical, with the financial. Just about anywhere you turn, it's a lie. But the good thing is there's people that are waking up and seeing the truth. And that's some in the medical, some in the military, some in the police are seeing that, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. We've been lied to. What's going on? And that's when they start seeing the agenda.
And you know what it tells me? It tells me that there's only one reason to take the guns, and that's because you're afraid people are going to want to defend themselves, which tells me that what they've got planned for us is a whole lot worse than what we've been through already. That they're not done yet with the American people. That they're going to pull us down even further to the point where we're not going to like it. You know, I don't care if it's right or left, and shame on anybody who's still stuck in that phony baloney right-left paradigm, okay? Democrats or Republicans, there's no difference, ultimately. But when people no longer have a political means of solving their problems, then the next thing they do is they protest. And as we've seen, here in New York City, we had 2 protests against the Iraq invasion. 500,000 people each time. The New York Times reported tens of thousands of people came, okay? When that doesn't work, then people got to try to take matters into their own hands. So it seems to me that the big boys have such an ugly place lined up for us to march to that they fear that the people are going to take matters into their own hands, and they want to make sure they don't have any guns when that happens. That's what it shows me. What do you think?
Well, yeah, that's it, basically. The pattern is that what other country can you name other than Sweden that has guns?
I can name one. In Switzerland, and I've said this numerous times, and I can't say it enough times. Not only does every house with a male between 18 and 60 or something have a gun in it, it has a fully automatic rifle in it because all Swiss males are in the military, okay? It's a militia. You're on active duty, and then you're on militia for the rest of your life. And your automatic weapon is in your house, in the gun locker. And if your son lives at home, then there's 2 of them there. And if your brother lives with you, there's 3 of them there. Okay? And that's the way it is in Switzerland. And they've got arms caches and weapons and explosives. They've got them planted all around in caches all around their country. And their people are experts at the terrain in their local neighborhoods. They know which bridges to blow if an invader comes in. They know how to defend. Somebody's going to have a hard time if they try to go into Switzerland, okay? And guess what? When was the last time you heard about the Swiss going to the movies with their fully automatic weapon and killing everybody?
Yeah, right. But
I never heard it, and there's one in every house. So what does that tell you? It's not the guns. Something else is going on, and they won't talk about that something else because it does not reflect positively on the oligarchs that run this country because they're either doing it deliberately or the people are snapping at the garbage culture society that they're heading us toward, in my opinion.
They're heading us toward, and furthermore, they've talked about either an 80% or a 90% reduction in population. And, as long as the people are armed, it's going to be more difficult to do that. Of course, they're probably doing it surreptitiously through the medical system, through the foods, and who knows what else.
Well, if you think that the owners of Monsanto, the heads of Monsanto who are growing this poison GMO stuff, eat it. I got a bridge I'd like to sell you, Randall, right down the street from me here. I'll give you a great price on it. How about that?
No, bad. Thank you. But anyhow, you're right on, and it's just another false flag. Another key thing is.
Well, you know what, Randall? Hold on, because we're going on break. I don't want to see you get cut off. Randall will finish on the other side. You can be next, 512-646-1984.
Arf, arf. The relationship between man and his trusty companion, the dog, goes back for thousands of years, but new evidence suggests we had domesticated a different friend even earlier. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back to tell you who it was.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Long before our ancestors tamed wild dogs and made them part of the family, they may have kept pet foxes. Although foxes are timid and skittish by nature, evidence suggests they can be tamed with a lot of love and patience, though it's not an easy task. Archaeologists working at a 16,000-year-old gravesite in northern Jordan recently found a fox carefully buried with his human owner. They believe the ancient pet lover had tamed the fox and made it a friend, and that he did it long before dogs came on the scene. In fact, the fox grave was 4,000 years older than any known grave containing a dog. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
Live Free Speech Radio, LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Something wrong! Man, I smell something wrong. Something wrong! I don't think I'll be around here long.
All right, Junior Watson, something's wrong. Something's wrong. That's why we play that song, because something is wrong, okay? But unlike Junior Watson, I'm not going to bug out. I'm going to hang in here, and we're going to talk about it. 512-646-1984. Randall's on the phone. Let's go back to Randall in Texas, but you could be next. Nobody is on the line after Randall, so grab your phone and call. You could be next. We're talking about Orlando and the bigger picture around it. Randall, isn't it interesting to watch the government's not calling the shots. Their bosses who pay them or who's calling the shots. The oligarchy who hides behind them is calling the shots. But, now that we have the alternative media, now that we can discuss this among ourselves like we're doing tonight and so many other outlets, isn't it interesting to watch the government get caught in its own crossfire? Okay, you should not have guns. Nobody should have guns. Yet, we can't protect you from all the angry people that we're creating in other parts of the world by killing their family members at weddings and stuff who are totally innocent, or wiping out a million Iraqis who never threatened this country whatsoever because our media was successful in helping our politicians, buffalo the American public into thinking there was an actual reason to destroy the country of Iraq and kill a million Iraqis, which there wasn't. And the rest of the world is supposed to just take that and say, okay, oops, hey. Isn't it something? They caused the problem, even on the official version. The people come back here to do something about it, and they want to take your guns away, and then they can't protect you from doing it. And yet, the same politicians are telling you you shouldn't have guns, all got Secret Service and armored limos and, SWAT teams all around them all the time. What do you think of that?
Well, it all goes along with the problem, reaction, solution. Mm-hmm. And they already know what the solution is before there was a problem.
Well, they create the problem in order to engineer the solution, right? And then they use the media to steer everybody towards their preordained solution.
Right.
The lying mainstream media with blood all over its hands.
Right. But the thing is, it's just like people in the military, people in the police department, sheriff's department. Most of them don't know what's going on. They're just following orders. They accept the fact that the editor will spike the story because it's not interesting enough, or whatever. If it's about a gun that saves somebody, no, that story gets spiked. But
I'm not for open carry all over the place, especially where alcohol is being served. I worked in nightclubs. I shudder to think. And I worked in big clubs and small clubs. There was a fight one night, or a few times, in a small club that I worked in one night. And it was basically a local bar that had a little dance floor in the back, But I was I'm going to blow my own horn here. I was such a great DJ. I had that place so packed, Randall, that when this fight broke out, nobody could do anything. The crowd of people was so crushed together, because then more people come to see what's going on. It was like watching the wind blow through a field of corn. It's like the people just swayed back and forth because it was so tightly packed. I shudder to think what would have happened if there were people there with guns. But at the same time, in a parking lot, in a Walmart, something like that, what would happen if one of these shooters showed up and somebody was armed? Well, the government says, well, we don't want that, and yet they're not protecting anybody either, are they?
Well, here's a man with a supposedly semi-automatic weapon, and they wait 3 hours before they go in. Now, they've got Kelvar, and they've got weapons. Now, of course, they made it a little faster than they did in San Bernardino, but there was a report of multiple shooters in there, and, of course, the doors were blocked, and, yes, they would have been in this catch pen in the back, but at least they could have seen the stars when they hit the ground, if it wasn't cloudy. But then another symptom of this whole thing is it took almost 24 hours or 20 hours before they went in and got the bodies out. And, that's got to be a smelly mess by the time that kind of time goes by. That just isn't standard. So it smells like Sandy Hook's.
Well, you can add to that, where were all the ambulances? The doctors are saying people are just driving people in. We don't know what's coming. We don't get a report from the ambulance. We don't get any instant care being given in the ambulance. No ambulances taking people. Listen, I'm a New Yorker. I was almost killed on 9/11. All of the New York City hospitals sent dozens and dozens and dozens of ambulances downtown. They were lined up. St. Vincent's Hospital, they were depressed. The doctors were ready for trauma, and there were no survivors. Okay? That's what you do in a situation like this.
Right.
Where were all the ambulances? That's weird. Well, and then they've got the nerve to tell me on TV, oh, thank God we were practicing. Every week we have a mass casualty practice drill. Oh, really? Yeah, and I understand. So maybe your hospital only has 10 ambulances. Orlando, I think it's a pretty big town. Disney's there. You got a lot of people coming. How many other hospitals are there in Orlando? How far is the next hospital away from you? 5 miles? 10 miles? Why weren't there a line of ambulances out there, hours going by in this club?
Well, they had 3 hours to get ambulances there before the police went in.
And in the meantime, as soon as the shooting started, they could have had it. I'm sure the cops got there pretty quickly, right? So what's going on with this thing? I have not heard stories of multiple shooters here, although I have heard stories of multiple shooters at many other incidences like this, which were quickly suppressed. I did hear stories about the doors being blocked, but I haven't heard many stories about that again yet. So it's all fishy. And let me tell you, even if they didn't plan this thing, they would be jumping in there and trying to alter the story in their direction to take advantage of it. But, I'm sure we'll hear more about it. But listen, by now, every major city in the country ought to be prepared for something like this.
Well, yeah, and I'd be almost willing to bet that there was a training session going on that matched this identically, that some shooter was going to go into the gay nightclub, and by gosh, it happened. And the police just happened to be, 2 blocks away.
Well, that's a common occurrence in a lot of these situations. It's like that. They're doing a drill or practice even on the same day, sometimes even at the same time. Webster Tarpley talks about that a lot, and then they switch it live. So I haven't heard enough details out of this one yet, but
the truth takes more lies to keep it from coming out.
Well, you know what? But you can't keep the truth down forever, and it'll come back eventually. So, there's evil people out there that think they can game the situation. And let me ask you something. What if this would have happened in Texas? Do you think there might have been a different outcome?
Very likely. There's people that openly carry, but I would think most of the clubs do not allow any weapons in. So
I tell you what, if my child was in there and I heard about this going on and I had a weapon, I would be inclined to go down there.
Right, go through the door with your weapon. Yep.
Yep, and if the cops were too chicken to do it. Now, listen, the cover story for why the cops did not go in there is that this guy told them he had suicide vests strapped onto some of the victims and he was going to blow them up if they tried to come in. So they got that end of it covered, I guess. But nothing from nothing is nothing, right?
Yeah. Sounds like a likely story, huh?
Well, listen, Randall, thank you so much for listening. I know you've been listening for years, and I look forward to talking with you again real soon.
Very good. You keep up the good work, Tom.
You too, sir, and say hi to your friends out there in Austin. Thank you very much. All right, friends, we're going to take a break, and then Lynn is on the line, and you can be next, 512-646-1984. Taking a break. We'll be right back. Tom Kiley, INN World Report Radio. All right, good friends, welcome back. That great song from the, I think it was the third album from the group, yes, 1971, 73 song. Yours is No Disgrace, and that is so true. Yours is No Disgrace. Call in. Let's hear about it. 512-646-1984. We've got one more segment left in tonight's show. I hope this is a useful catharsis, maybe, vetting of some ideas and information about this terrible tragedy, the events of which are still unfolding, the real ones and the phony baloney ones. But what do you think? 512-646-1984. Lynn is on the line now, but nobody after Lynn, so you could get right through. 512-646-1984. Hi, Lynn. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Handy and damn nice, as Grandma used to say, unfortunately under, not so nice circumstances, but I think it's important to keep talking about it. How's the show sound to you tonight so far, sir?
Pretty good.
All right.
I do want to mention something that you did mention 9/11, so and what I want to say it has something to do with 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I have proof positive that 9/11 was an inside job. Now,
okay. I think the proof abounds, but go ahead.
Yeah, it does. But this is maybe a little stronger, I think, than other things.
Let's hear it.
Okay. You know that, of course, maybe a lot of other people don't that are listening, maybe about Building 7 going down about 5 o'clock that same day.
5:20, yes. 5:15, 5:20, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, and you can probably verify this. Mm-hmm. Building 7 was farther than a football field away from the Twin Towers.
It was about 100 yards or so, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've heard it's a little farther than that.
At least 100 yards, maybe a little more. Yep. Okay. To the south.
Now.
I'm sorry, to the north. I apologize. To the north.
Yeah. Gravity only works straight down.
Oh, yeah.
If the official fairy tale is true, that some debris from the building went over there and started the fire over in Building 7,
right,
then it would have to be put over there by explosives. It would have to be pushed over there by explosives.
No question about it, especially, if it was big girders or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you don't want to allow the possibility of the explosives, then the fire in Building 7 would have to be started, like with a Zippo lighter or incendiaries or something like that.
Or since there was obviously a very large operation already to plant explosives throughout the Twin Towers extensively, there would also have been a large operation to plant explosives through Building 7, 47 stories or so. So, there could have been a third plane, the one that went down in Pennsylvania, or maybe another plane that couldn't even take off because, live events don't always go the way planned events go. And maybe once this all started, there were delays and not all flights were allowed to even take off. So maybe Building 7 was wired to be hit by a third plane, which couldn't show up for one reason or another. And they decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and pull it anyway. Larry Silverstein's making a lot of money on this stuff. But how are we going to – so somebody go sprinkle a little gas on a carpet up there and start a few fires, and then we can always blame it on that.
Yeah. So anyhow, you got your choice between explosives in Building 1 and 2 or somebody set the fire intentionally in Building 7. You only got those two choices.
Well, no, you don't even have those two choices because even if you set the fire intentionally in Building 7, that is not enough to get it to come down, especially at free fall acceleration. It's got to be way more than that. The fires and the smoke are only the cover story for the people who think they know something about physics and engineering when they don't because, so many, barroom experts tell me, it was a jet fuel. You don't know what you're talking about, buddy. Yeah. I talk to architects and engineers, okay, and pilot. Go ahead.
I've got something else. The other thing is that there is a video of the countdown to the demolition of Building 7. I've seen it.
Yes, there's cops talking about it. Yep.
No, this is not cops talking about it. This is actually happened. The explosions are on the videotape. on the sound. Right. I've seen it twice. I saw it once on YouTube in about 2005. It got yanked off there. I saw it on another video that was produced by architects and engineers from 9/11 Truth. I can't find it anywhere. So if anybody out there knows where it's at, Let's get it out there. Please.
Well, I suggest, Lynn, that, you know what, it sounds great, but we don't need such a thing, and we don't even know if that's a real thing or somebody dubbed the countdown in later. The physics alone proves that it's garbage. The idea, and as first of all, starting off as your point, how could you get debris flying more than a football field away unless it's forced by ejection from explosions? And then if it started a fire, so what? These buildings are built to handle a little office fire on the carpet.
I agree, but any corroboration that we can get helps.
Every little bit helps, especially the 28 pages. I disagree with those who say, let's not look into that, because you know what? The 28 pages give you the key to the money that went to the Saudis to supply for the cover story. So anyway, listen, thank you, Lynn. Call back soon. I've got another caller. Richard, hardest working listener to INN World Report Radio. How you doing, Richard?
Hey, I'm doing all right, Tom. Yeah, I just wanted to say in respect to Muhammad Ali, he's kind of like everybody's uncle when I was growing up. Everybody's funny uncle, and everybody's funny daddy if you didn't have a daddy. But we didn't really get into the politics of it. But I just wanted to say, I wish he would have had one last act of defiance and did like Farrakhan has done recently and just stepped up and, even if he couldn't speak, he made that last statement to Trump saying, don't hold all Muslims responsible. I was kind of hoping that in his last act of defiance against the system that he would have did like Farrakhan and said this was an inside job. He could have worded it the way he wanted to and showed the ultimate respect and love for his religion instead of allowing the system to just basically, I know the man was ill, he was old, he's probably under a lot of pressure, they probably threatened him. But to me, that's the ultimate act of respecting your religion and at the same time bringing truth to power like only people like him could have. Like I hear you're one of the only radio stations who is actually saying that we drew first blood. No matter how we want to respect the flag and the concept, at the end of the day, we drew first blood.
Without any cause. Without any cause.
That's right. So somebody like Muhammad Ali, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they could have got with Farrakhan and some of the other more powerful voices in Islam and said, you know what? We love our God enough to step forward and risk everything, family, friends, everything. Reputation, like Sam is doing, like Deborah's doing, like Alex Jones is doing. And let's put an end to this madness because now we're so far down the road, we may not be able to stop this fire. This thing is burning out of control because too many powerful people didn't step up like you and like others who have a microphone and put this truth out there. So, I just don't know what to say anymore. This thing is, I listen to Joe Biggs. I listen to Tim Kennedy. These guys are fine young men. They work for Alex Jones. I'm sure you're familiar with them. But even they won't say that, this is a quagmire that our government got us in by lying to us. We had the PNAD documents. We got the General Wesley Clark saying that we're going to hit. But yet you can't get Americans to boldly stand up and say that this is something that we started. We drew first blood. I don't know what it's going to take. How many more people got to die before people step up?
Well, Richard, what does that say about the ethical fiber of our country? We're supposed to be so great. We're supposed to be so Christian. We're supposed to be so church-going. We're supposed to be all of this stuff. Excuse me. The truth is, what? What do you have to say, America? If we are half of what we think we are, how can we go to sleep at night saying, oops, we made a mistake? We accidentally drew first blood and 1 million dead Iraqis happened as a result. No, that doesn't factor into, even if it was a mistake, which it wasn't, which Donald Trump said it was not with the weapons of mass destruction, okay? Even if it was a mistake, if we are who we say we are, we would man up and step up to the plate and say, oh my God, we made a horrible mistake. Iraq, we owe you. We're going to rebuild your country. We're going to protect you. We're going to help you. Even if it costs a lot of taxpayer dollars here, that's who we are. But no, not a word of it. And if one of those people come over here and say, you killed my family at a wedding, you maimed my cousin, you murdered my sister at a wedding with impunity, and you haven't even declared war on my country. You shot like a coward from a mile up in the sky. We couldn't even see your drone. You shot a Hellfire missile into my family's wedding because you thought there was a bad guy there. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. You don't care. And you're going to think that you could just do that and nobody's going to get pissed off and want to come back over here and do that. That's the official story, which I don't even believe. But these clowns, I'm looking at Bill O'Reilly right now, don't even bring this up. We are just Americans. We deserve to murder brown people on other parts of the planet who don't get with our program. How dare they? Number one. Number two, I'm getting ready to put a Joe South song in my bumpers. Walk a mile in my shoes. You mentioned Muhammad Ali. You know what? That guy did a great thing. He taught me as a young white kid, and I was in Virginia at the time, I don't know what he had in his mind. He did a great thing as it was. And then, as you point out, toward the end of his life, he suffered greatly because of his time in the ring, and he was not in control of all of his faculties. I don't know. If maybe he wanted to and he couldn't. Maybe he just was playing the odds and say, "Let me live another day to keep doing what I can do." Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, it does. But I'm almost sure now that I know enough about Islam and all the different fractions that they probably told him, "Look, just stand down. It's going to cost you too much. We might kill your whole family." But
maybe yes, maybe no. But you know what? He converted to Sufism before he died. He turned his back on mainstream Islam, as far as I know, and certainly the Nation of Islam.
I'm thinking there was so many emotions at play. Guilt on top of how do we hide our hands without, how do we save our pride? Like you said, America is a Christian nation, but then we got this dichotomy with Islam. It's like, so how do you step forward and meet that challenge? Like I said, that's what makes you so special, because you're on the air doing it every 2 days. And so you're a special man. I'm not just saying that.
Well, no, I'm not. There's nothing special. I'm just doing what you got to do. And if I don't know, there should be everybody doing it. That's it, Richard. Thanks a lot. We'll be back, friends, on Thursday night. Have a great night. Thanks for calling in.